How much pressure is on him to make up for last year?
Oh, he's got a lot of pressure from the standpoint of just making sure he keeps his cool. Of course, he has to perform, but let's keep in mind that Game 7, that wasn't on him. Draymond Green showed up, dropped 32 and 15 and 7, I believe. He would have been the MVP of the NBA Finals had Golden State won that game. So it's not like he didn't show up and ball. He got suspended. It was a bogus suspension. It's something that shouldn't have happened. It was on the books. It was left at the discretion of the NBA, who exercised a flagrantly egregious, as far as whatever you want to call it. I'm just disgusted just even thinking about it, to be quite honest with you. But nevertheless, it is what it is. He has to show up and play the way that he plays, but more importantly, he can't find himself in a situation where he gets double-teed, gets ejected, or anything like that. He has to be out on the court to perform every single game of these NBA Finals. Of course, he has to perform well. He doesn't have to drop 32 and 15. He just has to be Draymond Green and whatever comes with that. But he has to stay on the floor. If he loses his cool, if he loses his head, that's going to be held against him more than anything else he may or may not do.
That's the only pressure on Draymond, to not be prodded, provoked, instigated, so that his behavior deteriorates to a point where it hurts the team, where he's taken out of the game, where he's suspended, anything like that. Yes, there's, I suppose, pressure on him to do that, or there should be. He should have that in mind. But is there really pressure on Draymond? He's shown up big in the past. You just mentioned it, Stephen A. Had it not been for LeBron James at the end of that game, and you're going to say and Kyrie, sure, but I think especially LeBron at the end. Draymond's the MVP of the finals. But you know what? As I was watching that, you were there, I was there last year, Game 7. I'm sitting with a friend, and I say, here's why the Cavs are going to win this game, late in the game. Because Draymond Green's not going to be the finals MVP. I mean, once in a while you get a quirk like that. They give it to Iguodala because that team wins and LeBron's team loses because LeBron didn't have any help and he got closed out in 6 games. LeBron should have been the MVP of that finals too, by the way. Obviously, not even close. But they gave it to Iguodala, so sometimes, but that wasn't what it would have been. Draymond would have gotten the MVP on the winning team by having as good a game as anyone on the floor. So Draymond has shown up big in those circumstances. But we all know, and Draymond's a great player. I don't think he's great enough that he can be the best player on your team and beat another super team in the finals. I think if you want to win that, someone as good as Steph or KD has to be the best player on the team. And Steph and KD have reputations, which they have earned, not the biggest chokers of all time, but both players who perform a little less than their normal standards under pressure, maybe even a little bit more than a little bit less than. So the pressure is on them both as better players than Draymond and as players who have track records of underperforming in those situations. The pressure's on those two much more than Draymond to show up big. And you ain't going to win if Draymond's your best player. You saw that last year. One of those two other guys or both need to step up, and that's where the pressure is.
Well, Draymond could have been your best player, and those guys just showed up when it really, really counted. Klay Thompson should have touched the ball more. Steve Kerr didn't ensure that would happen. Steph Curry didn't need to play around with behind-the-back passes. But let's say, for example, that Klay Thompson made a couple of more shots, and Steph Curry didn't turn the ball over. That still wouldn't have taken away from the game that Draymond would have had, the game that he did have, and they still would have won the game. So you have to look at it. I don't think that they have to be the best player on the court in order for Golden State to win. Draymond could play the way that he played. They just need to play a little bit better than they did.
Yeah, but you know what, Stephen A.? Because Steph didn't show up as Steph Curry in those finals, it was even that close, right? It shouldn't have even been that close. He went away, Draymond stepped up, and it wasn't quite enough. So you can say, and I said, hey, if Harrison Barnes hits an extra shot, if Ezeli shows up at all, right, then maybe they win. But that's not what happened. What happened was because Steph was significantly less than his normal self, the Cavs were even in it in the 7th game to beat him. And Draymond had to be better than, the best version of himself or even beyond that to have a fighting chance. Draymond's good. Everyone knows Draymond shows up under pressure if he's on the court. KD and Steph are the ones with the pressure.